What is happening out there, Roto Scouts football fans? Week 2 already. How the hell did that happen? Things go fast in football season, I tell you. We're going to be saying week 8 already, end of the season already before you know it. Football flies by, but we've got a killer Thursday night game to talk about tonight. Should be fun. Still working on getting things together. I'm trying to get my act together and actually put together a 8:30 show like I've been threatening for after this one to talk about the main slate a little bit, talk about quarterbacks and stacks for that one. Stay tuned. We will see what happens with that. I am struggling to finalize getting just everything where I want it. Had some issues getting the board updated with stats. Had to move some things around because of changed tables on the back end that have nothing to do with me that I download for. They were fine last week for last season's data, and then some new things changed for this season's data when they put the new stuff up this week. So a little bit of a pain in the ass, a little bit of a setback, but we're in place. We've got one game to talk about for this show right now, and then we'll see what happens with the future. But lines up to be a good one. Miami and Buffalo. Buffalo at Miami for this one. Very close game on the Vegas board. Miami getting less than home field advantage, just 2.5-point favorites at home. Really solid looking 48.5-point total. Juicy opportunities for offense on both sides. Couple of good quarterbacks. Some good skill players to work with. Some interesting downboard depth chart type options. Some deep tight end boards, which we always love for Showdown. Couple of capable but also gettable defenses last week. 4.9 yards per rush attempt allowed by Miami, ranked 25th. 6.6 yards per pass attempt, ranked 18th. Should be a little bit better than that in terms of stopping the run as far as yardage goes. But right around there, as we discussed last week, it becomes negligible differences in a lot of ways when we're talking about 4.8 versus 4.9, and it separates you by 10 rankings points. So you take the rankings, and especially in super small 1 week size samples, a little bit with a grain of salt here. On the other side, the Bills had allowed 5 rush yards per attempt, 26th ranked, obviously right next to each other there. They were giving up just 4.7 yards per pass attempt last week. That ranks 7th overall. If we flip back to last year per pass attempt, they were at 6.1 yards per pass attempt. So it averages down to a 5.4 if we're looking at last week plus the average number from last year. So they were effective this past week, but I don't know that there's anything overly realistic about keeping it quite so low. Where am I? Too many boards open. I still got the baseball file open. I've got 2 football files open, so bear with me as I accidentally click around this board. So I think, odds are we're looking at some fireworks on the offensive side of the ball. We saw pretty good performances out of both of these quarterbacks. Josh Allen led the week in terms of fantasy scoring last week. Threw 2 touchdowns, ran for 2 touchdowns. You're going to get a lot out of that as far as padding fantasy stats. Tua threw for 300 plus yards, only threw 1 touchdown pass, but still threw for 300 plus yards. A little bit of question mark around Miami in terms of especially Devon Achane. We've got no Raheem Mostert already. We know that he's out. Achane dealing with a ankle, and supposedly it's going to be right down to pregame whether or not he actually plays. If he doesn't go, then we've got some Jeff Wilson Jr. on our hands. We've probably got some of Jalen Wright, the rookie running back, on our hands. Might be a little bit of a time split between those two guys. I think I have Wright a slight amount higher and Wilson a slight amount lower than maybe other places do, giving them both a little bit right now. And then obviously if Achane is in, tremendous opportunity for him to be the ball dominant option, and with his explosiveness, obviously monster fantasy upside, just needs to play. And then they'll have lingering questions about the health, but my take on that sort of thing is typically if they take the field, they're going to be, to me, you have to consider them basically 100% because the NFL team is. So you just have to give him that kind of credit, and he is that explosive of a player. Fortunately for Miami, they also have tremendous options in the passing game with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Both had pretty big games. Waddle got over 100 yards, had most of it on one big chunk play, where Tyreek had, I think, 12 targets. We'll look at the numbers in a sec. Tyreek had more targets, more volume, and accrued more yardage, had the bigger game between the two. But both of those guys capable of going off and providing a big day for Tua. They can get it done on the ground. They can get it done through the air. They've got a few downboard options. They've got multiple tight end options. Kind of a mixed board of wide receivers after the 2 big names. What's interesting is Braxton Berrios is a $1,200 option on DraftKings. He's $7,000 on FanDuel. That's kind of a stark price difference there. Not that Braxton Berrios is any good at all, but he's going to be on the field. He was targeted a couple times last time out. Probably going to be the same thing this time. You've got Robbie Chosen at just 200. He was elevated from the practice squad. Might see a couple of opportunities. So it's an interestingly deep Dolphins team. And then on the other side, you've got the two decent tight ends. They were a little bit limited last time out, but Kincaid's got upside, and then Dawson Knox, especially as a red zone target, definitely has upside in a showdown format. Getting him for $2,600 on DraftKings is kind of a bargain. Interesting spot there. You got James Cook coming off of a pretty good game with a lot of talent at the running back position. They can get a little bit plotting and a little bit run focused, especially this year, maybe, a little bit more of that with the more limited wide receiver options. We've got Khalil Shakir, who had a decent day. Keon Coleman led the team, the rookie. He had a good day, but Shakir got in the end zone. He was all right. Curtis Samuel got a few looks. Downboard Mac Hollins, mix and match quality option, but a very cheap $1,600 on DraftKings versus $8,000 on FanDuel. Another guy priced very, very differently. A couple backup running back pieces. You've got MVS on that team, who did get 2 looks and some air yard chunk. Didn't really come up with much, but got a couple opportunities. And hey, one downfield shot from Josh Allen in a showdown is really all you need. So kind of interesting up and down options and some at least playable bargain bin considerations. Steven saying I should change my name to Terry Chosen. Yes, Robbie Anderson, Robbie Chosen now. Power chiming in, Devon Achane went through normal warm-ups without a trainer, and the Dolphins are not elevating running back Denner Prince, which is good. Jalen Wright and Achane warming up. Cujo's not having a hangout with us because he's having dinner with the fam. Not bad. Blaine's in the house. Blaine from our guys over at acemine.io. We'll take a look at their sims, the output for their sims. They're running in the background right now. We'll take a look at those like we have for the last few showdown shows in a little while. But if you got any Ace Mine questions, that's your man, Blaine, right in the chat right there. He's saying Alan Samuel stack for all the money. Like that call. That'll work. So taking a look, we'll do a kind of what we've done the last 2 times. Quick little breeze through some of the individual numbers. We'll take a look, but we won't get crazy about it. And then we'll start building some manual lineups, and then we'll flip over and look at the Ace Mine results. So in terms of the defenses, just to start out, as discussed at the top, Buffalo was limiting quite a bit more in terms of the yards per pass attempt, just 4.7 yards per pass attempt allowed. That's not realistic. That's not going to stand. They're going to be more in this kind of territory. Miami last week allowed 6.6 yards per pass attempt. It only amounted to a touchdown apiece allowed, but a much bigger defensive ADOT. They were allowing a lot of balls downfield, which should definitely benefit Josh Allen in that situation. They were blitzing 40% of the time, so they were coming after the quarterback last week, had a 20% pressure rate, came up with 3 sacks. On the other side, 4 sacks on a 26% pressure rate, but blitzing quite a bit less on the Buffalo side of the ball. But both teams were capable of getting to the quarterback. We could see the same thing a little bit this week, but both of these guys know how to handle the blitz. It's not going to be, threatening them. It's not going to be them, running for their lives and just firing the ball to nobody. You can see the output for Tua and the volume. 37 passing attempts is pretty significant. Josh Allen only threw the ball 23 times. Again, they've gotten into a little bit of a plotting run focus kind of territory. They were 6th slowest neutral pace, 7th highest neutral rush rate, where the Dolphins came in 8th pace and 13th in passing rate. It's kind of middle of the board when you talk about 13th, but 37 passing attempts puts him at or slightly above the average number that we're looking for from high-end quarterbacks, usually around 35, 36, so that's perfectly fine. 338 yards, obviously tons of volume there, but only got it in the end zone once. That's a little bit of a problem, but that can pick up any given week with similar kind of opportunities. If he throws the ball 37 times a game, you probably bet on him throwing more than 1 touchdown pass a game. Allen on his 23 attempts was completing 10.1 yards per pass attempt to the 9.1 that Tua was putting up. He was throwing the ball further downfield, 7.2 intended air yards, 5.3 completed air yards per attempt versus 6.4 and 3.8. This is me not getting into the stats too deep. But Allen is the more reliable downfield option. Tua is seeing more volume on some short attempts. He's also got more guys where you just put the ball in their hands and they make incredible things happen on a football field. So he's got that luxury and can accrue some yardage that way. Allen took the ball to the ground more often. Obviously, he ran 9 times for 39 yards, 4.3 rush yards per attempt, and he ran the ball in twice, including that up and over. Could definitely do so again. It's going to be a part of his game. It's always been a part of his game, too, and not nearly the rushing quarterback. That's where Allen pads out his fantasy stats a little bit, his projections. That's why he was always going to land a little bit higher. But realistically, the higher option with a bit of spread. Both are completely playable on a showdown slate. Both belong in a ton of your lineups. Assuming we do get Devon Achane, he looks pretty fantastic for the price, 96, 12, 5. Going up against a team that allowed 124 rush yards and a touchdown, 5 yards per rush attempt last week. It's basically the same numbers on the other side for James Cook and co. to run against, 4.9 yards per attempt, 128 yards and a touchdown on the ground. Cook saw 61% of the snaps last week. Ran the ball 19 times. I think he came up with 22 total touches, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, three targets, 3 catches for 32 yards on top of 71 rush yards and 19 carries. So anytime we're talking about volume at the running back position, I'm looking for 20-plus touches. He had 22 last week. He's the key, the prime back in terms of snaps, opportunities. You can see the other guys barely touched the ball. 3.7 yards per rush attempt. Didn't get in the end zone, but was putting up 2.1 yards before contact, a yard and change after contact. Wasn't targeted in the red zone, but again, was targeted 3 times, so he's involved a little bit in the passing game. You can conceivably see him get a little bit more involved. Minimal snap opportunities for Ray Davis and Ty Johnson. Johnson came out of the game. He had a knee issue, but practiced all week and came back to practice on Wednesday, practiced through the week. So 13 total snaps, but a lot on special teams. Or I forget how they work that. I think that's in addition to. I think it's 13 and 13 on offense and then 8 on special teams. Ran the ball twice for 7 yards. Was targeted once, didn't catch it. Not a lot of volume going through Ty Johnson. And then Ray Davis carried the ball 3 times. He ran the ball 3 times for 13 yards. He was on the field for 6 offensive snaps, 5 special team snaps. He caught 1 of 1 for 14 more yards. Slight involvement for both of those guys, but either of these players I feel like would need to break one to get involved at all. We'll probably see a little bit more involvement for both Jeff Wilson and Jalen Wright, just considering the banged-up nature of Achane and the fact that he's not really an every down back anyway. 52% of the snaps last week. Jeff Wilson picked up 15%. Obviously, some of it went to Mostert before he went down. Jalen Wright wasn't active last week, but should see time here, and he's kind of interesting. I know my Dolphins fan whisperer buddy, Brian Jules, was very excited about drafting Jalen Wright in our fantasy draft. He gets very into drafting his own Miami players, but he's typically right about these guys. And he was big on the kid. He's a 4th-round pick, 120th overall, 5'11", 210 pounds, runs a 4.38 40. Decent size profile at 5'11", 210. I forgot to grab his college stats. I had him the other day, and I forgot to grab them. Hang on one second. In 12 games, 137 carries at Tennessee last year as a junior, 1,013 yards, 4 touchdowns, 7.4 yard rush average. 10 touchdowns on the ground on 146 carries the year before as a sophomore. So a talented kid with clearly a lot of speed and potentially the opportunity to touch the ball a couple of times today. Be interesting to see who comes up with more touches in terms of him or Wilson. I would expect it to be Wilson. In week 1, Wilson did carry the ball 5 times for 26 yards. He was on the field for 10 offensive snaps, 10 special team snaps. Wasn't targeted in the passing game. Limited opportunity, and it is, of course, a guy that we've seen a significant amount over time. Been around since 2020. Moderate production when he gets opportunities, but nothing really overly special. So I'm kind of interested about in Jalen Wright. And where he just checks in on this slate for a $2,000 price tag, assuming we can expect some touches, unless we get news to go away from him, obviously. I think you're at least throwing a couple darts around it. And then on the wide receiver board, so Coleman caught 4 of 5, 51 yards. So 44 air yards, which was 25.3% of the share. Hopefully those are the same numbers on this board. I didn't cross-check. That didn't even come up. How about that? I love this. Some of these boards are such a mess. I have no idea why Keon Coleman's air yards wouldn't have come up on that board. Everybody else's seemed to. Weird. Anyway, it should be roughly 25% of the team air yard share for Keon Coleman. And then we had some shots, a little bit of air yard share for Curtis Samuel. Matt Collins had a couple of shots. He was targeted twice. He came up with both of them. He had a receiving touchdown, 12.5 yards per target on a 12-yard average depth of target. We had decent depth for Dawson Knox. We had MVS again. Like I said, MVS only targeted twice. He came down with one of them. Didn't really have a very impactful game. Played 21% of the snaps last week. But look at the average depth of target, 27.5 yards. They are taking downfield shots to MVS. Did it twice. Again, not anything overly impressive, but 55 air yards per catch. So they're airing it out there. Just, going to be very, very, very touchdown dependent. 1,800, though, a little bit of a bargain dart throw kind of an opportunity on a showdown slate. 65, similar thing on the FanDuel side. Knox and Kincaid had a reasonable number of times where they were sharing the field. 58% snap share for Dawson Knox, 84% snap share for Kincaid. They were both targeted twice. Knox came away with one. Actually, they both came away with one of them. Knox was targeted more down the field a little bit, 9.5 yard ADOT versus the 0.5 yard ADOT for Kincaid, but we're talking again about 2 targets, so limited opportunities. Both guys are viable targets in the red zone. Both guys are viable just middle of the field kind of receivers at the tight end position. So they stay in the mix, and I like these teams where they have 2 viable tight ends where one's going to go a little bit under-owned compared to the other. I'll take my shots with some Dawson Knox touchdown upside, and I think it pays off on a showdown slate. So hopefully that comes through for us a little bit this week. Shakir, 53% of the snap share, was targeted 3 times. You can see the limited passing volume here, though. I mean, they spread the ball out in not throwing the ball all that much and focusing a lot more into the run and playing at a slow pace. They at least spread out opportunity to all these guys, but it peaked at 5 targets. 5 targets for Coleman was the team leader. So there wasn't a ton of passing volume, and that does get concerning as you start to talk about depth on these teams. Just with, they're all going to get 1 or 2 looks, but that's like getting up to the plate twice, and if you didn't hit the home run in your 2 opportunities, that's it. You put a 0 into the lineup. It's the same kind of concept. Football's a lot more low volume than people appreciate. It's a lot more event-based than people appreciate it, especially at these receiver positions. Running back, quarterback, you can get a little bit more into a volume-based discussion, but receiver is very much an event-based position. And it's wild because it's event-based across a number of different things. The quarterback's got to deliver the ball properly. They got to call your number. You've got to run the route right. There's a lot of different things that really have to hit for receivers. So receivers are a big a big lottery is the right way to put it. But Shakir's got talent. He's probably going to be more than the rookie in terms of at the end of the year, what do the target shares look like? At least that's what they were expecting coming into the season, but they do like Keon Coleman quite a bit. He's got some talent and, obviously proved it a little bit in that first game, 9.2 yard ADOT, 10.2 yards per target for him in that 25% air yard share. Shakir was catching the ball on short routes a little bit more, just a 4 yard ADOT, but was putting up 14 yards per target on his 3 targets. Has that kind of ability, a little bit of catch and run ability for Shakir. So some interesting targets, but maybe not the best overall receiving core. Kind of lacking a true, one alpha dog kind of a receiver. Dolphins don't exactly have that problem. They've got a Tyreek Hill. They've also got a Jalen Waddle. 12 targets, and I mentioned this before, the volume difference. 12 targets last week for Tyreek Hill. He came down with 7 of them, put up 10.8 yards per target on an 11.9 yard ADOT, 43.8% of the air yard share. Jalen Waddle got most of the rest of the air yard share at 26%, 14.4 yard ADOT. He caught 5 of 5 passes for 21.8 yards per target. Tyreek got the touchdown pass, but Jalen Waddle had a pretty decent day. Again, for Waddle, that did come down on one big chunk play. 63-yarder in the third quarter. But, Jalen Waddle, 1,000 air yards last year on a 9.9 yard ADOT, 1,370 the year before on an 11.9 yard ADOT. Just needs to find his way into the end zone reliably. but a monster number 2 receiver at the absolute worst. Saw 72% of the snaps to the 70% that Tyreek played. Very high-end skill player. Braxton Berrios was on the field for 37% of the snaps. He did not catch either of his 2 targets on a 6.5-yard ADOT. This is a very, very limited receiver. And this is where it gets really thin for the Dolphins pretty quickly. Berrios is a guy over the course of his career. He peaked at 46 catches back in 2021 for the Jets as a 25-year-old for 431 yards and two touchdowns, 6.6 yards per target. Last year on this Miami team, he caught 27 passes, 238 yards and a touchdown for 7.2 yards per target. Very, very limited guy to be operating as like, the number 3 in here. Chosen, again, is up from the practice squad for just $200. Might get a look here or there. Last season on this squad, he played 9 games. He was targeted 6 times in those games, caught 4 of them for 126 and a touchdown. It's been a minute since he was relevant. He did have 5 touchdowns on 53 catches for Carolina in 2021, which is, again, going back a little ways now. The most relevant recent season was actually 2020, where he was over 1,000 yards on 95 catches with 3 touchdowns. But it's been more than a minute for Mr. Chosen down here. He's very, very affordable. You can probably mix and match your way to a couple shares. And then you've got playable tight ends on this side, but maybe not ideal. John, who didn't necessarily get the volume that I was hoping for, was kind of a sneaky play last week when we talked about him. Just 2 targets. He caught 1 of them, just 3.5 yards per target on a 1-yard ADOT. Still a big dude who they might throw the ball to in the red zone a little bit. Still would be a choice at the tight end position. Durham Smythe played more of the snaps, 42% of the snaps. He was targeted 3 times, but came away with none of them on a 5.7-yard ADOT. The tight end involvement in this offense is a little bit limited. It's not like they're throwing the ball down the field to a lot of tight ends. A little bit of work in the red zone, a little bit of working close as they march down the field. But by and large, the ball's going into the hands of the running backs and the wide receivers here, with the tight ends as maybe a little bit of a safety valve. So I don't love the opportunities for any of these guys. Mix and match quality at the position at best. Capable kickers, Tyler Basso over here, Jason Sanders over there. Capable defenses, but again, not the best defenses. They both did accrue a few sacks the last game. But we're expecting some scoring here, so maybe it's a day where you can mix your way into putting some defenses in for differentiation purposes in lineups. We probably don't want to be piling up double defenses. Probably a little bit better of a day for kickers than for defenses. They're both on the board, but as always, it's mostly about quarterbacks, getting some skill players in there, working skill players into the captain spots on DraftKings. Always focusing on quarterbacks, getting your correlation where you need it. And we'll take a look at some of that right now. See what you guys are chatting about. HN active? Woohoo! Thankfully. Really didn't want to have to go and try and split those those opportunities up between Wilson and the rookie. The most Buffalo receiver with the biggest ADOT by far was MVS, but you're talking about only 2 opportunities. So it depends on what you're looking for. But nobody really had a lot of plays. On, like, volume, the 9.2 over 5 targets that Keon Coleman got stretches you a little bit more. But the guy who got 2 extreme deep looks was MVS. Not a good receiver. Not necessarily a guy you want to be rooting for to catch that ball for you, but that was him. All right, let's see what we can do here. So in honor of him being active, let's put Mr. HN in the captain spot. Should be a good choice. And we'll go with the QB, high-end QB from the other side. And that was Blaine's call, right? Samuel? Yeah, I'll go with Blaine's call with Curtis Samuel with Josh Allen there. I like that. 16K per spot. Why is this not coming up? I don't know why the salary's not working. Salaries. Did I not put this in? No, I must have, because they were coming up for the other thing. Hang on. Let's see why this board's not working. Yeah, the game's here. Why is that not coming up? AI 4. I'm just annoyed why that's not going to come up. AF. AI 4. It's the right lookup. Yes, I use VLOOKUP. Get off my case. It's just how I learned, and it's just so much easier than thinking out the other thing. I just don't know why this is not finding that. Oh, yes, I do. Because that's only going down to... For some reason. Just a much bigger lookup range. I don't know why that was cut so short. That's weird. All right. Figured it out. All right, so we've got 3,600 a spot. That's not a lot, but there are a lot of cheap options on this board. Give me Dawson Knox to work with my Josh Allen and Curtis Samuel in there, and now I've got 35 apiece. And I can have... you can take the cheap couple of targets that Burrios is going to get. You can do the same thing with like an MVS on this one. I like that you've got... These guys will probably be targeted. So you don't have to stretch to the Robbie Chosen 200 option if you don't want to, which I don't really like doing. Wilson paired with A-Chain is kind of an interesting approach, though. What does that leave us? That's 35 now. And then go with another like random ass touchdown dart from the Dolphins. Oh, that's too much. Why did that? Did I say he's 28? This is what happens when I put these boards together in a hurry. Yeah, 28. Why would it come up with the wrong... Oh, I'm stupid. I put the... I forgot the top one had the multiplier for the captain spot. Oh, shut up. Just add the parenthesis. Let's go. What? That's got it. There we go. All right. Now we can do better on these salaries. I felt like that sounded light. 8,300 apiece. That makes more sense. So, Allen Samuel, go A-Chain. Throw Sanders into there. Maybe we play like this one as a 12-2. You could throw 2 in there. You could grab Tyreek even. I was going to say you could play this one as just like a low-owned Miami under kind of an approach. But if you threw Tyreek in there, you still got 600 left. It's duped just 11 times. It's actually not a completely awful option. And if you go in any other direction, it's probably going to be lower owned. So if you did that and went with got Sanders there. What's up, Andy? Glad you made it, buddy. So literally could have anybody. We just took Cook and threw him in there. It's duped just 7 times. Not terrible. Not terrible at all. see what a Tyreek captain looks like. That's going to be crazy popular. You, of course, want Tua in that. I'll give it Josh Allen as well to make it challenging on the price. Now I'm dealing with just $4K a piece. Tyreek probably don't want the Bills defense in there, but let's throw the Miami defense at Josh Allen to be a little different. And we'll give Josh Allen his prime tight end to work with. And now we're at 2,000 apiece. Ooh. Give me my MVS shot then to go with Josh Allen. And it's duped 42 times. And actually probably a little bit more than that because I forgot to change Miami on the ownership. I hate that, more than one Dolphin, I hate that DraftKings doesn't use the city name in their thing there. That's better. 6.27. There wasn't an ownership projection on Miami there. So leaving 200 on the table there, that comes up with just 6.27, and that's a Tyreek in the captain line in the captain role. It's not terrible. Kind of liking the way some of these DraftKings ones are coming together. Remember the other day, it was so difficult to limit those dupes. A lot less so this time around. What about a Allen captain? And we'll go back to what Blaine was advising us from the, I assume, informed from his many sims for this slate over at acemind.io, where promo code RotoScouts gets you 20% off your first month. We'll go with Curtis Samuel there, and then let's go the other way with Knox for some tight end upside. And then we'll go A-Chain. I don't want to go A-Chain and Wilson again. Both kickers. That leaves a shit ton of money on the table. 6,700 left on the table. I don't know that I love that. Cuts your dupes down to just 4. But there's probably better ways to build that lineup. Bills D, A-Chain can run up and down the field for 200 yards, but not get into the end zone. And the Bills D still probably plays okay if they come up with a couple of scoring events. Then you got 11-9 to work with. You could even throw Tyreek into that mix. And it's not ideal with the two best skill players from the Dolphins against the Bills D, but you could do it. We haven't really used much Waddle. It's the exact same thing with him. I'd probably be more inclined to just take another Bills option here, though. Although you could do, like, what if we took Sanders? He's 75 on the table. We're leaving tons of money on the table in these. If you just went with the chalk from the top, obviously our dupes are going to be crazy, but you'd spend all your money. It's really about these last couple of spots, how you wanted to do that. Like, that's a relatively chalky lineup. Even Knox and Samuel will be among the more popular of the affordable guys. But that leaves us almost 8,000 to work with, so you could easily just be like Kincaid and Jalen. And we're duped 15 times. So, yeah, that's the more straightforward, heavy quotes, better version. You could take Knox out of that if you didn't want to double up the tight ends. And you'd have 27 to work with, so you could throw... You could throw Barrios into that if you wanted to for 12. You could throw Jeff Wilson for 24. That's probably the correct decision there. And just take both running backs in that situation. But it's duped 25 times. So again, once you get into piling on just the obvious guys up at the top, you dramatically and quickly increase that that level of duplication. Lemons is here. What's up, Lemons? Yeah, Blaine nails it. MVS was the air yards leader for Buffalo last week. 53, I think it was. But again, that amounts to 2 downfield shots. He only caught 1 of them. But that's who MVS is. If he comes down and just falls, he's usually falling when he's trying to catch the ball. And if that's into the end zone, that'll pay it off. I can put MVS captain Mamba, but I mean, again, you're talking about a guy in the captain role now who's going to get maybe 2 looks. They'll both be down the field. They might be toward the end zone, but you get pretty thin there in a hurry. I'll give you Josh Allen to work with there. I'll even give you Tua and Tyreek in that one because MVS's captain ownership is going to be non-existent, so it doesn't really matter. 7,600 to go. I've got those guys. Give you a Wilson. Nah, you'd do better than Wilson there probably. 76. Give you a Samuel to go with your MVS. Now actually, I give you one of Josh Allen's good receivers to work with. Still leaves me 95. You could go Allen, you could go Coleman and Cook in there. Leave 500 on the table, and you're duping only once. That's going to be close to your best version of that lineup. You've got both quarterbacks in there. You've got Tyreek in there. You've got the leading receiver from the Bills last week, their high-end rookie, and you've got their ball-dominant running back. It's heavy Bills. If you wanted to mix in another Dolphin, that would be easy enough to do. You could just do this. And that one's barely duped at all either. It leaves 900 on the table. Now you're getting Tua, Tyreek, and Jalen Waddle, plus Josh Allen and Keon Coleman as a pairing, and MVS needs to get you in the end zone. But it's one of those two I would think is probably your approach with that lineup. You don't need to differentiate any of those other positions. If you're putting MVS in that captain role, you can go heavy chalk. Do one more. Trey's getting a lot of Tyreek and Kincaid captain. We did a Tyreek, I think, but let me throw a Kincaid. I like that. Touchdown dependent again. Expensive tight end to have up there, but capable guy. Should see more opportunities this week, I would think. I expect they're going to throw the ball a little bit more this week. Seems like a game where they'll get engaged a little bit more, get a little bit more high pace, a little bit more pass-oriented. Let's see. Kincaid, Allen. We'll go a little ground-focused here. But we'll give it also Jalen on that to put some believability on it. We'll give it Sanders from the Dolphins side, and then 56 left for one last Bills player. That means Curtis Samuel fits in right there. 7 dupes, 200 left on the table. That's not bad. Allen and Kincaid with Samuel's upside, and then H.A. Waddle and Sanders on the Dolphins side. You can do worse than that lineup. That could win you a tournament. It's probably a couple more optimal ways to put that together, but that came together kind of nicely. I like that. Andy, I'll always consider some shares of Jonnu, especially, again, in showdown format with tight ends who are going to be on the field. I'll always go to that a little bit just because of how much touchdowns matter in showdown. Between the tight ends, Jonnu was on the field for just 28% of the snap share, but he saw 2 targets. He caught one of them. Durham Smythe was out there for 42% of the snaps. He saw 3 targets, caught none of them. Does that make a difference for Jonnu today and mean that he gets a little bit more opportunity? Potentially. Jonnu had a drop and Smythe didn't, so maybe that means that the incompletion was Jonnu's fault, where Smythe's 3 were not. I didn't see the passing to break them down. Jonnu got a little bit more depth on his couple of targets, but we're not really talking about much differentiation there at all. The idea, though, is just a guy who's going to be out there for maybe 30-ish% of their snaps with a couple of looks, big-bodied guy who they might target in the red zone. There is upside there. It's entirely touchdown dependent, though. But yeah, I would, across a bunch of lineups, or as a differentiation piece for cheap pricing and low ownership, I would include him, yeah. Harold Haas, are guaranteed overlay contests good to play lineups in? Sounds like, yeah. Yeah, anytime there's going to be more prize money than should be appropriate for the number of entries that it's divided amongst, of course. It's still going to be, depending on the nature of the tournament. If there's still 700,000 entries in it, then your odds of winning it are not necessarily increased, but the amount of money that's available to be won is increased. So that always means it's a better opportunity because, again, as we talk about a lot, the math of it only works with the mass lineup building if you're actually building 150 lineups a day and going through those same decision-making points and doing it with the same process, chasing that same exact, high level math. It's just like poker, right? You got to play every hand. You've got to play those hands similarly, following the same mathematical approach. Otherwise, your math gets screwy, and when it does come through, you haven't paid off the losses. The wins only pay off the losses if you're doing it the right way every single time. When you get into hand building just a couple of lineups, chances like that, start to add up, and that's where getting overlay, yes, it means a difference, but it means more of a difference probably toward those people who are approaching it that way, the people who are building, because now it's it's the same opportunity, I'm going about it the same way, it's the same contest size, but this week randomly there's more money in it, right? So it depends a little bit on the nature of how you play, but as a general rule, anytime there's more money to go after, it is a little bit better of an opportunity. Hopefully that made any kind of sense at all. Let's take a look at some quick, easy FanDuel lineups. It's FanDuel, so, I'm a sucker for Josh Allen, so we'll put him in the MVP spot to build a really chalky one to start. Let's grab some Coleman there. And we'll get some Waddle. And I've got 11,000. This is how chalky you can be off FanDuel Watch. 95. I can take Kincaid. It's only duped 100 times. That's not the lineup I was going to build. I just got, as I was building it, I was like, oh, wow, that'll fit nicely with Price. But a realistic one with those two, I would go more toward like a $7,000 Dawson Knox in there to support the Allen upside. And then I'm tempted to, like, H8's so easy to grab at 12.5 there. I'm tempted to do it. And then you're just leaving a chunk of money on the table as your point of differentiation. But you still need to differentiate here. And it's not ideal. What if we swap out Samuel for Coleman? That's going to help us out a lot. And then Bass or somebody. That cuts it down to 12. It's not completely terrible. Leaves 6,500 on the table. Similar duplication if you just swap Tyreek into that spot and you're spending a little bit more of your money. That one spends all your money and is only duped a few more times, but now you're out to a 16-way split for, I think, a 100K pot. Not that that's bad, but, it does cut into things. No matter how you slice it, Allen in the captain role is going to make those things a little bit beefy. Let's go like Cook in the captain role. He's probably a little under-owned in that spot. We'll give him Jalen. Go try. Let's see. We can probably get both quarterbacks in there. And then 6,000 left. All right, this is a little different. You can make an interesting decision and say, hey, I want to grab a little bit of lightning in a bottle opportunity with Jalen Wright, who probably will touch the ball a couple times, assuming he is in fact active, which I think he is. Just given the banged up nature of Devon Achane and the fact, again, he is not necessarily an every down back anyway. I do think most of that volume falls to Jeff Wilson Jr., the more experienced guy, but they did spend a 4th round pick on Wright. They probably want to see what they've got there. So I could see a few touches, and at 55 to drop him into this kind of a lineup is probably going to, I don't know, it's 33 dupes. Wow, really? What's his ownership at? Oh, this had him at 19% owned. God damn. I didn't realize that. That's surprising. All right, that's not going to be the favor that I thought it might to cut down that ownership. So then 65 for MVS doesn't fit. You'd have to get to like Robbie Chosen kind of territory, or you're going Ty Johnson, Durham Smythe. Smythe might be the option. Johnny was 1,500 more than the guy who got more targets than him. That could be a way to go. That's not going to be all that popular. Under 10 dupes for a handbill with Cook, Waddle, Allen, Tua. Not terrible. Touchdown dependent for Smythe spot, obviously. Let's go one more. That's just dumb. Waddle's 11. That sucks. It's dumb, but it's also the exact right amount where I can't get Waddle. If you wanted to be really weird and go that way, you could do that, but that's probably a little bananas. That gets really touchdown dependent around Jonnu Smith. But it's not duped. I would probably play that lineup. Even if you want to switch out, let's see what it looks like. Oh, wait, I should do this way. If you switch those guys, it's duped almost 10 times. So obviously it's key having Shakir up in that top spot. But I don't think it would be completely nuts to play this lineup. You can do worse, probably do better. You could probably do worse. You could also just load it up with bills. If you wanted to spend your money, that one's only 4 dupes. That's not terrible. Shakir, Allen, Samuel, it's a Bills wipeout, and then Tua with not actually correlated to anybody, which isn't ideal. Let's say we took him out, put Tua back in there. 62 is somebody actually to throw to. And then that puts us at 75. This one's going to be more duped than those others, I bet you. You get Dawson Knox there. Actually, we'll give that to another. We'll give it to a Jonnu back. That is interesting. That's probably a more realistic version. I kind of like how that works. And honestly, the fact that you could go Durham Smythe for even less and similar kind of ownership, you could play the tight end upside from both of those guys. Does Smythe buy me Tyreek? It doesn't. It does buy me Achane if I want to go away from Waddle. And that's another low dupes lineup. Skill player in the position in the MVP spot, you know, there's obviously going to be correlated scoring there, and Shakir's going to have to outperform Allen. So you're going to need like all the focus to go Shakir's way. That's how the receivers end up outperforming the quarterbacks in the stacks on FanDuel. So not necessarily the most likely there, but definitely a good way to differentiate. 7-18. Time just flies by. Anthony Taylor wants to see a Waddle MVP. Tua Allen, Samuel Knox. Not bad. 7 dupes. You could take Samuel if you wanted up to Keon Coleman and double your dupes. Increase your floor probably. But I like the way of going with Samuel there. If you wanted to take Knox out of it, you could get. Can you get Kincaid? You can. You can get Kincaid. So same thing. You could switch those guys for a few more dupes, so a little bit more security, depending on what you're looking for. If you wanted to try a little bit more differentiation, since it's Allen and Samuel, you know, maybe that's just a touchdown or a passing touchdown or a rushing touchdown, but you get the Dolphins D in there. It's still 11. I don't love that. Sanders, similar kind of level there. Cheating to just throw one of these guys in. You know, MVS is not going to have any kind of ownership at all. I could just drop him in there, and oh look, it's 1.75 dupes. You could do that. I mean, he is again conceivably going to get 2 downfield targets, so it is there. MVS is kind of the wild card lotto ticket of this slate with those with the average depth of target being potentially very large. So some different ways to play it. I feel like this is a much more open, much more buildable showdown slate than what we've had in some of the other ones these first couple of weeks, or the first couple of games. So really interesting one. It should be a hell of a good game to watch. I'm going to pull up Ace Mind. I'll show you guys some results. Hopefully I successfully executed the Sims, because I just kind of fired them off and have not looked back. Let's see. FanDuel looks like it went. DraftKings looks like it went. The results looks like I got everything actually set up correctly. I think we're in business here, gang. Let me get it onto the screen for you. None of that is low faith in Ace Mind. It's low faith in my ability to, in a very big hurry, get that set up properly with me clicking on. You guys have all seen me click and miss enough times, I think, to know what I'm talking about. Here's your DraftKings sim board. So, hey, Blaine, if you're still out there, so anything I can get to either have the ability to move around these fields where they're landed, like if I could put the dupes field over here, or just a little bit of an easier scroll. Right now I'm just using like the arrow keys to scroll because there's no scroll bar. Oh, wait. No, there's a scroll bar now. Never mind. Or maybe it was always there and I just couldn't see it because it's the same color. Never mind. What I like to do, guys, and I've talked about it before, is you can get in here with Ace Mind and you can give it a less than or equal to, and you could say, like, let's only see the ones that are less than or equal to 10 dupes. You can do that across your 150, and now my entire pool of 150 is fewer than 10 dupes, still sorted by the categories that I put in there. And you could just you export that right away if you just want a quick, in a hurry, 150 lineups that have good ROI and still are fewer than 10 dupes. So just some shortcuts that you can do. It's also a good shortcut to just like, if you're building 10, 15 lineups, just let me cut out some of the dregs that I don't necessarily want that are going to be duped 1,000 times and get to the meat of what I actually want in there. Did I get my other ones back? I don't think I got those back. Weren't there other ones that were higher? What am I doing wrong, Blaine? I don't know how to get that off of there now. Well, whatever. You can also do this to kick it out to 500 lineups. Oops. So across these top 500 lineups by that sort, Blade say, yeah, we added a scroll bar. Good note being able to customize the column order. Not sure what you did. I did a filter for dupes, but they're back. Once I resorted out to 500, the high dupe ones ended up coming back. So you can see like some crazy 300 times dupe lineup. That one is not going to be the most profitable lineup at $125 on the average, minimal ROI. But that's a lineup: Tyreek, Josh Allen, A-Chain, Tua, Mac Hollins, and Durham Smythe. Doesn't necessarily seem like it's the most popular once you get toward the back end there, but the massive popularity of those front end guys and spending all its money, so that's just a pile on. And it gets duped so many times that it soaked any kind of value out of it. So let me get back to, I'll give it back to our top 150 by the custom sort that I have built in there. And we'll look at some hopefully better looking ones. Pretty monster looking ROI right there. This lineup up on top, bringing it back $600, $660 on average. It's duped 19 times, but that's still pretty decent little payout because there's $1 million up top on DraftKings. This next lineup has me interested though. There's only one dupe on that one. $583 average cash one. That's a Josh Allen, Tua Tagovailoa, Jalen Waddle, Dalton Kincaid, Curtis Samuel, Jonnu Smith lineup. Kind of interesting. Looking at some of the distributions, tons and tons of Tua as expected, tons of Josh Allen as expected. Josh Allen across the top 150 lineups, the way I've got it configured in the captain role, 41% of the time, the highest owned overall captain. So these are flex. Again, the quarterback's super important to have at least one, if not both quarterbacks in a flex role. But today, Josh Allen's garnering a big chunk of the captaincy as well here across our best performing lineups. A lot of distribution around. You get Tua in a flex with Josh Allen at the captain. Jalen goes into a lot of those lineups. Keon Coleman's in a good chunk of them. Kincaid, Shakir, the obvious guys that are receivers correlated scoring with Josh Allen. You get some Mac Hollins is landing in some. Bills D's coming up 25% of the time. It's kind of interesting. More or tied with the shares that we're getting of Tyreek in the top 150 performing lineups. Tied with the Dolphins D as well. So that's actually defies what I had said at the beginning. I was thinking that maybe it would be a little bit shy away from defense's day, but they're definitely coming up in some winning lineups here. You can see this third lineup has the Bills in it. Dolphins lineup right down here. Or Dolphins D right down here. Tyreek, the next most highly owned captain, followed by James Cook. So again, to me, in this scenario, we do get a lot of Josh Allen captain. But then we're going into some skill player captains. You can see Tua only came up as a captain 4% of the time in these top 150 lineups. So it's very much skill players or Josh Allen in the captain role per these sims. I'll scroll down gently through some of these so you guys can get a idea. This is your ROI column. Let me stretch it a little bit more. Keep it on the screen here. There you go. This is your average cash winner column over here. And this is your ROI column over here. So again, you can see even all the way at the top, there's Jonnu captain. That's an odd duck. That one's bringing back $387. I'm sure that one's not duped all that many times. So some good looking lineups through here. A lot of playability. Again, down lineup, they did us some favors with the pricing on both of these sites today. There's a lot of down lineup playability today. Yeah, Blaine, it might be a good idea to cap that to like 2 digits, 2 decimal points. Trey saying, I was going to ask more specifically A-Chain captain. Get a little sort in here. Doesn't look like he came up in the top 150 of the captain role. So probably best wielded in the flex, it seems like, based on these results anyway. This was run five times, 5 pools of 50,000 sims of 176,000 lineup pools. So there's a lot of data behind this one. Flipping over to FanDuel real quick, we'll take a look at our top 150 on FanDuel. We won't spend quite as much time because it's FanDuel. A lot of Josh Allen, Tua going back and forth in our top performers here, but we do have some skill players, which is a good sign to me. I always like when skill players come through on FanDuel. Tyreek, A-Chain both in there a little bit. Primarily the quarterbacks, though. A little bit more A-Chain down here. Some Waddle creeping in. Not awful. On FanDuel, we're going against a $100,000 prize pool, so this cash one is going to be a lot lower. $200, you know, they're about a third of the way there. Over these 150 lineups, the two quarterbacks coming up, monster shares, 94% of Josh Allen, 73% of Tua. This is across both MVP and Flex on FanDuel, I believe. Yeah, it is. You can see a high concentration, though. I mean, there's let's get down to here. It's really thin shares of Jalen Sanders, Jalen Wright, Smythe, Ty Johnson. Those are, for limited guys, those are, you know, appreciable chunks. Dawson Knox just 6%. The Dolphins D 8%, some 11% Jonnu. Even Tyreek just 12% of these. It's surprising. It's an expensive piece. I think he's probably getting boxed out a little bit by price. Top lineup: Josh Allen, Tua, Jalen Waddle, Kincaid, Curtis Samuel. Bringing back $200 a pop. Leaves 500 on the table. It's duped like 11 times. That second one to me is a little bit better. 3.2 dupes. Always want to clear up the opportunity. $245 average cash winner on that one, so it's a higher end in terms of the returns. Tua, Allen, Waddle, Shakir, and Jonnu playable. That one spends all your money and is duped infrequently. So kind of reflects the nature of the slate on FanDuel and the lack of a multiplier position for the salary. We'll scroll through. Again, I do like when we see not just entirely quarterback heavy at the MVP spot. It does suggest some spread. Some of those lower owned names throughout some of these top lineups, though, they're popping up a little bit. Bills D making it in a couple of the top overall lineups. Dolphins D is right there. So again, the defense is overperforming my expectations. This one's got Bass and the Bills D in it. So there's a little bit of this slate, gang. It's 7:30 on the nose. This was when I was targeting trying to get out of here. I was talking about 8:30 for a bounce back to talk about the quarterback, the main slate. I'm going to put in a little bit of time and see if I can get my act together to get that one going. Keep an eye on YouTube, and if it pops up, come join me in about an hour. Come on back, and we'll talk a little main slate quarterbacks. I'm going to try and make that happen. I know I've been so bad at promising these shows and then not necessarily being able to pull them off, but just so much. So stay tuned. Let me see if I can get the board together for that in time and be able to put together a decent show for you. Otherwise, we'll see you tomorrow, and we'll do just a gigantic marathon show again tomorrow. But either way, should be fun to talk about. It's going to be an exciting, fun main slate. Good luck out there tonight with this tournament. Somebody go win something, and we'll talk very, very soon. See ya.